You're sitting with someone you trust. They glance around the room, then they lean in, lower their voice, and say 5 words. Did you hear about her? And something in you wakes up. You lean in too. You didn't decide to. It just happened. Why? Why does a lowered voice pull you in like gravity? Why do you suddenly have all the attention in the world for news about someone you may never even meet? You might think it's a bad habit, a small, slightly shameful human weakness. It isn't. That pull you feel is one of the oldest forces in your species, and it may be the entire reason you can speak at all. To understand it, you have to leave the room. You have to go back. Long before cities, long before farms, long before a single word had ever been spoken out loud. Back then, your ancestors lived in small groups, moving across an enormous and dangerous world. And like every social animal, they had one problem they had to solve before any other. The problem wasn't food, it wasn't shelter, it was trust. In a group, your survival depends on other people, so you have to know who to rely on, who shares and who hoards, who stands beside you when things go wrong, and who quietly slips away, who tells the truth and who doesn't. Get those judgments wrong, and it could cost you everything. So how do you build trust in a world where no one can yet speak? You touch. Watch a troop of monkeys or a band of chimpanzees for a single afternoon, and you'll see it everywhere. They sit pressed together and groom one another. They run their fingers slowly through each other's fur, picking, smoothing, for hours at a time. It looks like simple cleaning. It's only partly about cleaning. The primatologist Frans de Waal spent decades watching how chimpanzees actually live with one another, and what he described was not a world of mindless animals. It was a world of politics. Grooming, he showed, is how alliances are built. It's how rivals make peace after a fight. It's how a chimp says, without any sound at all, "I am investing in you. I am on your side." Among our closest relatives, the fingers say what there are no words to say. But touch has a hard limit. You can only groom one other body at a time, and it is slow. Some primates spend as much as a fifth of their waking day just grooming, endlessly maintaining the small web of bonds that keeps them safe. That works beautifully, as long as the group stays small. But it traps them. Because the moment the group grows larger, there simply aren't enough hours in the day to touch everyone. And a bond you stop maintaining is a bond that fades. So what happens when the group grows anyway? This is the question that captured a British anthropologist named Robin Dunbar. Dunbar was studying primates, and he noticed a pattern that ran across many different species. The size of an animal's social world seemed to track the size of its brain. More precisely, the bigger the neocortex, the outer thinking layer of the brain, the larger the group that animal tended to live in. It made a strange kind of sense. Keeping track of who is friends with whom, who owes whom, who can be trusted and who can't, is mentally expensive. A bigger social world demands a bigger machine to hold it all. So Dunbar did something bold. He took that relationship between brain and group size, and he asked what number it predicted for us. For humans, with our unusually large brains. The answer that fell out was about 150. You may have heard that figure. It's often called Dunbar's number. It's the rough size of the social circle you can actually hold in your head. Not acquaintances, not faces in a crowd, but real, known relationships. People whose stories you carry. And 150 creates an impossible problem, because you cannot groom 150 people with your hands. There aren't enough hours. If our ancestors had tried to hold groups that large together with touch alone, those groups would have shattered into smaller and smaller pieces. Something else had to take over. A faster way to bond. A way to reach more than one person at a time. a kind of grooming you could do at a distance, with sound. That, Dunbar proposed, is what language is. Sit with that idea for a moment, because it quietly overturns a story most of us never thought to question. We like to imagine that language was invented for grand and noble reasons, to plan the hunt, to name the stars, to pass wisdom from the old to the young. But Dunbar's idea points somewhere far more ordinary and far more human. Language, he suggested, was born to do what fingers used to do: to groom, to bond, to reassure, to say I'm on your side, across a distance, to several people at once. And here is the part that matters most. If language really began as a replacement for grooming, then its first subject was never the weather or the hunt or the heavens. Its first subject was each other. Its first subject was who did what to whom. Its first subject was gossip. Now, Dunbar didn't just want a beautiful theory. He wanted to know whether it showed up in the way real people actually talk. So he and his colleagues did something almost comically simple. They listened. They sat near everyday conversations, in cafeterias and bars and on trains, and they quietly tracked what people were spending their words on. And the result was strikingly consistent. Around 2/3 of all human conversation turned out to be social. Not facts, not ideas, people, who's doing what, who's with whom, who behaved well and who behaved badly. Strip away the small amount of work talk and abstract talk, and what remains most of the time is people, talking about people. You did this today, almost certainly, and you barely noticed you were doing it. But the word gossip still leaves a bad taste, doesn't it? We treat it as something petty, something cruel, something that good people are supposed to rise above. So here's where the science turns surprising. Because when researchers actually measure gossip, cruelty is not what they find. In 2019, a team led by the psychologist Megan Robbins set out to capture it directly. They fitted hundreds of ordinary people with small recorders and sampled their real conversations across days of normal life. And they found that the average person spends around 52 minutes a day gossiping. Nearly an hour, every single day. But the tone is the twist. The overwhelming majority of that gossip was not nasty at all. It was neutral, just information passing between people. He got the job. She's moving away. They finally broke up. Did you hear? So if it isn't mostly cruelty, what is gossip actually for? Think about the problem it solves. You are only one person. You have only 2 eyes and 1 life and a limited amount of time. You cannot personally test whether every single member of your community is trustworthy. You can't follow them all. You can't watch everyone. But through gossip, you can borrow everyone else's eyes. You can learn that someone is a cheat without being cheated yourself. You can find out who kept their word, who abandoned the group when it counted, who can be trusted near your food, your children, your life, all without ever witnessing it firsthand. Gossip is how a group builds a shared memory of who its people really are. It is an invisible ledger of reputation, written and rewritten in 1,000 quiet conversations every day. And that ledger is powerful. Imagine a hunter who always takes more than his share and never gives back. In a small group bound by talk, he cannot hide. Word travels. Soon, everyone knows. And in a world with no police, no courts, and no writing, reputation was very nearly the only thing holding anyone to their word. A good name opened every door. A bad enough one could get you pushed out of the group entirely, and back then, being cast out often meant death. So gossip was never really the enemy of cooperation. It was one of the engines that made cooperation possible. It kept the cheaters in check. It rewarded the trustworthy. It let people who couldn't watch everyone still trust someone. It helped strangers become a society. Now come back. Back to the present. Back to the room and the lowered voice and the lean. Because once you see this clearly, you start to see it absolutely everywhere. Look down at your phone. Look at what genuinely fills your hours on it. The feed you scroll without deciding to. The messages you trade. The headlines about people you will never meet. The comments, the screenshots, the threads, the did you hears. We built a machine that spans the entire planet, and what do we mostly use it for? We use it to do the oldest thing there is. We use it to gossip. Social media is grooming at industrial scale. It is the campfire, stretched to the size of the world. And the very same ancient circuit that once made your ancestor lean toward a whisper in the dark is the circuit that now makes it so hard to put the phone down. You are not weak for feeling that pull. You are not broken. You are running software that is hundreds of thousands of years old on a device that was built 5 minutes ago. The hunger to know about other people was, for almost all of human history, a survival instinct. It still feels exactly that urgent, because to the oldest parts of your brain, it still is. And that gap is worth understanding. The pull is real, it is ancient, it is not going to disappear because you wish it would. But knowing where it comes from changes your relationship to it. It hands you back a choice. A choice about when to lean in and when, gently, to lean away. So the next time you're sitting with someone you trust, and they glance around the room and lower their voice and lean in close, notice what happens inside you. Notice the pull, the sudden waking up, the complete and total attention. You may have been taught to feel ashamed of it. Don't. In that small electric moment, you are not being nosy. You are doing one of the most human things there is. You are reaching for the invisible thread that holds people together. You are grooming with words. Your ancestors did it with their hands around a fire 100,000 years ago. You do it with 5 quiet words. Did you hear about her? And you lean in.